Today we talk about why holding on to players, specific players in Dynasty, can be a team's number one downfall throughout Dynasty off seasons. We all know Dynasty's played in terms of value. And holding on to these guys, a lot of them are going to be aging vets or even guys that might just be one-hit wonders. It's all about selling them while you still can, because when you can't, it is like a disease, bro. Nobody wants these players, so we got to be smart about what we do with them, so that our team is positioned for the best long-term success. Smash like and subscribe. We have a Discord, a Patreon. Go check it out in the description. We have a 200 name buy list, sell list, all the good stuff. But today, everybody is not great when it comes to action. A lot of people, the common misconception is, oh, I want to avoid a bad trade. And you definitely do. But what about inaction? Sometimes inaction is the worst action you can take. We got a bunch of names to talk about today, some great examples. Name number one. It's an example of actually my personal inaction journey in 2025. I thought I was going to be a contending team in 2025. I was. I P3. Whatever. It is what it is. Get your money back, right? Alvin Kamara. I had a couple offers going into the year for 2 2026 second-round picks prior to the season for Alvin Kamara. Now, second-round picks being worthless, okay, who cares? Let's look at Kamara specifically. Alvin Kamara was coming off of a 19-point-per-game season, an 18-point-per-game season the year prior. This guy was producing, but he was going into his year 30 season. Old running back. And he always misses time. And if we look at his game logs, 2024, 2023, Alvin Kamara has a historical trend where he falls off towards the end of the season. He always starts strong. He even started pretty strong in 2025, and then he just lost all the juice. And this is noticeable. This is visible. People are not stupid. Alvin Kamara averaged 8 points per game when healthy in 2025, and he wasn't healthy. That's the problem, right? So now, what is his long-term outlook? Sure, he signed that 2-year extension. He's back in 2026 if he doesn't retire. But, retirement is an option, 1. And 2, they're going to probably get Jeremiah Love or upgrade the running back position. They might even just use Devin Neal. So Kamara's days are over. And now, if I look at what Kamara's worth, Alvin Kamara, I am lucky if I get a late 3rd-round rookie pick. Lucky. So it's too late. See how I missed the value and I didn't get any production for the season? So this is what you really want to make sure you avoid. That's a primetime example of me. And that's why I learned the hard way, right? So Kamara's a good example. Another good example is Geno Smith. Take a look at my guy, Geno. Geno Smith, he signed a long, expensive contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know how long it was, but it was expensive, right? He got the bag that he wanted after performing well with Seattle. Looking at his time with Seattle since 2022, he wasn't really anything special. He's what I like to call serviceable. 15 points per game. It's not good. You have not really great rushing upside comparatively to other players, and his passing touchdown rate was also low. Going to 2025, worse system, worse team, way worse results. 11 points per game, and who knows? Listen, this guy is now replaced with Fernando Mendoza, and Geno Smith, more likely than not, his time in the NFL is done. Now, you weren't going to be able to sell this guy for much, just because he was going to the Raiders. Everyone knew that he was, no rushing upside, but you probably could have sneaked out a mid to late second-round pick, and now he's worthless. Tough, right? So you want to make sure you trade these guys prior. And so today, I'm going to give you a list of names. Those were a couple examples of mistakes that have already happened. Uh-oh, too late. Here's the guys that you want to check your roster for. I'm going to show you how to break down, evaluate whether or not you have any of these assets that are similar to this on your roster, and specific names and examples and guys to target instead of them. Name number 1 will be David Montgomery. Montgomery signed a 3-year contract extension, I believe, coming into 2025. New offensive coordinator, and that was the first warning sign, right? Like Montgomery, we already saw a bit of the fall off in 2025, but he's not quite 29 years old. I do think people are still a little bit behind on the David Montgomery fall off, but they have caught on. The Jahmyr Gibbs breakout, it arrived in 2025, and you probably should have sold Montgomery right when he got that 3-year extension. But if you haven't already sold him, this is your last chance. This is your last chance to do so. I think that his time in the league, I think he still has some juice. I'm not going to lie. I think Montgomery still has juice. But we're at the point where the David Montgomery fall off has happened. It's imminent. And it's not really a production fall off. It is a usage fall off. He's out there 1/3 of the time. You can't really do much with that. Like 10 points per game for a 37% snap rate, it's not even that bad. If we look at why it's lower points per game than the past 2 seasons, because his touchdown rate was a lot lower. They were using Gibbs more in the red zone. So I'm waving the white flag on Montgomery. It is time to pivot. He's kind of in a realm of guys where there's not much value. So for a guy like Montgomery, guys that are ranked, 100 or less in terms of their actual ranking currently, you're really looking at a bit of trade bait, is what I like to call it, a package. You send Montgomery and the second round pick, and then they'll look at the second round pick. They're like, all right, that's not bad. They look at Montgomery. They're like, oh, he'd be bad by himself, but package with something else. It's like a little cherry on top, but it's a poison cherry. So let's put it that way. Next name up is CMC. This is the prime example right here. McCaffrey. Now, if you're a contending team and you want to hold on to McCaffrey, knock yourself out. Me, a 30-year-old running back that's injury prone. We've seen it listen, it is very self-explanatory. I honestly don't have to explain it. If he's healthy, you're getting 20-plus points per game. Until age catches up with him or until he gets injured. We've already seen him volatilely. Man, someone break out the thesaurus and dictionary instantly. We've already seen the volatility here with McCaffrey in terms of one season he's healthy, then he's not, then he's not, then he is. I'm not playing that pendulum game with a 30-year-old running back who is... We're going to have a video coming out after this too about a specific hidden tier of talent. McCaffrey is around the best trade targets in terms of ranking. MHJ, great target. Judkins, great target. Burden, great target. Fannin, Chase Brown. I would rather have Chase Brown than Montgomery straight up. He is 4 years younger. And look at his game logs. Through the back half of 2025, he averaged over 20 points per game. Yes, sign me up. I will take Chase Brown. I know he's not as efficient. He's not as good, but I don't care. He's 4 years younger, and it's a little bit less risk in my eyes. So I would, go from McCaffrey to a guy like that, some of the names we just mentioned. And if you're tearing down to Chase Brown, get something on top. So, you make yourself feel better. Dak Prescott is an interesting case right here. I'm in on Dak Prescott in the short term. If George Pickens comes back to Dallas, I think Dak Prescott will have another, top 10 QB finish. That's what I think. However, he is one of those QBs with absolutely no rushing upside, and that just hurts his fantasy performance. He is somebody that when healthy, he's solid, but healthiness has also been a concern here for Dak. Approaching 33 years old with a potentially injury-prone quarterback, he's only a couple of years away from being Geno Smith 2.0. Now, I'm not comparing him. Dak is obviously way better. Dak is still under that massive contract. He will be playing for Dallas. I'm just saying, is there a world where you can package Dak and the first-round pick and go get Jackson Dart, who is 10 years younger, and he's got 40 rushing yards a game, 1 rushing touchdown per game, and he had a 19-point per game average as a bad passer without Malik Neighbors. I mean, that would be ideal. Josh Jacobs is probably the number 1 person you should be selling right now. 59th overall in ranking, so he's in that sweet spot tier of guys that I like a lot, and he fooled a lot of you last season. Josh Jacobs, what are you talking about? This guy's got juice, man. He averaged 16 points per game. Unfortunately, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. 16 points per game with a touchdown per game. The actual efficiency was down. 4 yards per attempt. Relatively inefficient. His receiving usage was also down. And he's 28 years old. So he's an old running back. He's up there with Montgomery. He's still getting the opportunities, although a little bit less than usual. But that's probably because he was banged up the entire season. So now you have an old running back, 28. He was dealing with injuries. If he has touchdown regression, which is what I'm saying he's going to have, potentially in the next year or two, bam, now he's down at 10 points per game and he's absolutely useless. But if you trade a guy like Jacobs right now, there's great names around him. Judkins, Chase Brown, Cam Scatterbo, Javonte Williams. Great trade targets around Josh Jacobs. Get out while you can. AJ Clown, he's still in that sweet spot tier. So this sweet spot tier is full of great trade targets and a lot of guys that you should be selling for those specific trade targets in this tier. A.J. Brown's a talented guy, but his separation was ranked very low. He's 29 years old. How many more years does he have in the tank? Maybe 3, okay. And the situation, where's he going to go? Let's say he goes to Tennessee. I mean, Scam Ward, I'm not a huge fan of that landing spot, to be completely honest with you. If he goes to the 49ers, that's a whole different story. I think him and Purdy could be a solid connection. But Hurts is a serviceable quarterback. His underlying metrics took a step back in 2025, and he was just a volatile receiver. He actually was getting a decent amount of targets, just not what we're used to seeing here for A.J. Brown in general. 8 targets per game. He was getting targets. He just wasn't doing as well with those targets, and the targets weren't as good because the offensive system was so naive. Not naive, so simple. Such a simple system. So A.J. Brown was in purgatory in 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a bounce back here above 15 points per game, depending on the landing spot, of course. But he's 29 years old, and I'd rather have the younger, more upside players around him because I think A.J. Brown, you're kind of chasing a past fairy tale. Similar story here with Saquon. He's 29. He's only a year younger than Kamara, and Saquon has more juice in the tank. Saquon will still be that workhorse. There's better days ahead here for Saquon, especially if they ban that tush push. Then Saquon's touchdown rate, we're going to see his touchdown rate go probably back up near where it was in 2024, and then Saquon Barkley could be, in their RB top 3, top 4, top 5 finish on the season. So there could be better days ahead for Saquon, and honestly, I do think that Saquon, he is going to be that focal point of that Eagles offense, especially with the A.J. Brown potential departure. So whoever the new OC is, it can't be a simpler system. They're going to have to get Saquon Barkley more involved. Is the Eagles O-line going to be able to take a step back when they get Lane Johnson in 2026? You got to ask yourself all these questions. I do think that if you can pivot off of Saquon Barkley, there's good options around him. Now, Saquon Barkley, I'm not rushing to sell as much as these other guys. I do still think Saquon Barkley will retain his value for another year, and you might be able to get production this season and then trade him after the season for maybe even the same value, because I don't think, once you see 30 for a running back, then you start getting worried, like McCaffrey. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Saquon still around like 75th in the rankings after this year, and then you could potentially trade him then while still getting the value. Devontae Adams, you got to trade this guy before he retires or he dies in combat. It's as simple as that. And he's actually in a good tier of players as well. Devontae Adams for Scam Laporta, please do that. Devontae for Tyler Shuck, you'd be a wizard. I really suggest you do that. When he's healthy and Stafford is healthy, that's 2 big ifs. Stafford's old, Adams is old. They both are very good. He will average 15 points a game, and his touchdown rate will be very, very high. I was in on him coming into the season. I told you that we would see an insane touchdown rate just because Stafford is so good, and so is Devontae, especially in the red zone. Retirement on the horizon. I don't know why he's still a top 80 Dynasty asset. Really, really like those 2 moves that I just told you about. Matthew Stafford. We just mentioned Devontae. Stafford's coming off of an MVP season, and he's still ranked 91st. Would I rather have Shuck or Stafford? I'd rather have Shuck, and it's not even close. Go get Scam Laporta. Stafford actually did have a good year without any rushing upside. Like 22 points per game is wild, but it's because his touchdown rate was extremely high. Again, you're hanging on to a thread here with Stafford. We don't know if he's coming back. We don't know how much more juice he's got in the tank. He was already dealing with back issues. He's going to be 40. He could be a serviceable quarterback, but if we see him go back down to like 15, 16 points per game, you're going to wish that you sold him at this current price for Shuck, who has 20 rushing yards per game on average. Brandon Aiyuk, this guy's speeding, going 200 miles per hour, posting Instagram stories, and this guy is as injury prone as can be, coming off of a gruesome injury, landing spot unknown, attitude unknown, afro skills unknown. So Brandon Aiyuk is somebody, if you can trade him and tier up or even down, like Arondé Gatson, Chris Godwin. I'd rather have either. I'd rather have Pierce. I'd rather have Woody Marks. I mean, I'm not even a big fan of those guys, specifically like Woody Marks, but Aiyuk is a nobody for me. He's got to go. Final name of the video is going to be Matthew Golden. You can honestly put all the Packers wide receivers in here. Like, just get rid of all the Packers wide receivers. None are going to be relevant. But Matthew Golden is somebody where he was some value insulation from being a rookie selection in the first or early second in 2026. But he played terrible. You can see 5-point per game average. There was not really much bright spots here either. There was concerns from me about how he would translate to the NFL. Like, I wasn't convinced he was like a superstar back at Texas, right, coming out of school. And it turns out that he didn't produce well. Now, year 2 wide receivers, the breakout's coming. Oh, he's fast. Bro, it is a crowded receiver room. Tucker Kraft was hurt. The entire Packers receiver room was hurt, and he still didn't produce. So I am pivoting off of him for the same names as Brandon Aiyuk. So that is some examples of how holding players can result in disaster. Inaction can be the worst action. And some specific guys, man, check your roster. Do you have guys like that? Like Ricky Pearsall. There's value insulation is very real, very important. Jaden Daniels, there's even an argument that can be made, right? Like if you hold on to Jaden Daniels for another season and he plays bad or he gets injured, then that inaction could be a very costly, action, right? Now, Jaden Daniels specifically, it's different. You know, we just talked about a lot of older guys where we know that drop-off is coming. We don't know when. Whereas with Daniels, he could actually perform to the upside, and then the inaction is positive. So that's a different example right there. But either way, man, evaluate your roster and make sure you're making the right decision for your dynasty value. I'll see you boys in the next one.